Hello, thank you for being here. I'm really happy to be here and talk to you about my research. So it's nice to meet you, and I will just tell you a few words about myself. So I work both here at the Department of Zoology upstairs and at the Natural History Museum in London. And I do not work with dinosaurs, unfortunately, but I still work on animals and humans from the past. So, rhetorical question, have you ever heard about climate change? I see many people nodding. So, is that a new thing, or is it something that we have observed already in the history of life? So, if we look at the temperature changes over the last 800,000 years, so quite a long time, we see that the temperature, which is this light blue here, has been changing a lot. And we also see that there's quite a big correlation with the amount of CO2, so carbon dioxide, that is in the atmosphere. Actually, this relationship was found by a woman in science, and I think you will find some information about her in the books upstairs. So basically, we know that there have been peaks in which the temperature was higher or lower. So let's see what happened to animals when different temperature when the world had different temperature. So just to give you an idea, this is a map of Europe 21,000 years ago. And you can see that most northern Europe is covered by ice, permanent ice. And then you have a large area which is tundra, so which is a very cold environment with no trees, because it's so cold, trees can't actually grow. Then you have these very cold forests here, and then going towards southern Europe, you start to see warmer environments. To have an idea of how things change, in the last 21,000 years, we went from that to this. So you see that the environments changed quite a lot. And of course, animals living in those environments had to react to those changes. So the question is, what actually happened to animals when the climate changes and the environment and the habitat in which they live change and moves? So I will show you a first example from my research using the yellow warbler. This is a very cute passerine bird that lives in the US, actually North America, and basically it travels between North America and Central South America in different seasons, and I love it because it's so yellow and so cute. So if you look at its genetics, there are some people that have been sampling population from all over Northern America, and they could find out that basically there are different populations. So you see here, the population are mostly gray. This is the genetic group they are part of. And then the population on the east are mostly yellow. And then in the middle, you have mixed population. And scientists were wondering why that was the case. So what we did is that we did a quite complex analysis, putting together the climate change that we had in the last 50,000 years and the genetic, how the DNA of those birds changed through time based on different scenarios. So based on the fact that they could move or they could not move based on the climate. And basically what we found is that they were living all across Northern America where ice was not present around 50,000 years ago. Then when it was colder, they had to move down. And that's 21,000 years ago, the same time I showed you before when it was really cold. And they had to move south. then 13,000 years ago, the climate was way warmer than it was before, and they started going north. But as you can see, the subcontinent here so the ice still covered the northeastern part. So they could go north here, but not here. And they started going north in this part of the continent way later. So we see that they started being here way later, so 5,000 years ago. That means that basically those two populations we see is just because these population arrived before, these population arrived later, and basically while they were here, they kept evolving and they differentiated from the one that was there. So one possible reaction to climate change is to move. You go to where the environment leads you. So if you have the environment that is good for you, you try to go there. And a lot of animals, especially big ones and birds, are able to do that. If you're a frog, or if you're a very small insect, that could be a little bit more difficult. Then another example I can give you is about those four animals. So this is a red deer, and this is a white boar. You may be a little bit less familiar with those two. You clearly see this is a horse, but this is not the horse you will see here in the museum. This is the wild horse that lived in Eurasia up to 5,000 years ago. Maybe there are a few relict populations around, but we are not really sure. And this is the aurochs. So there's a wonderful aurochs here in the museum, but it's in the backstage, so it's not possible to see it. But this is basically the wild ancestor of cattle. And those four animals, they were living in Europe during the last ice age. And differently from mammoths, for example, and woolly rhinos, they were able to survive the ice age, so those big climatic changes. And in our study, we found out that basically the reason why they did that is that their relationship with climate changed. Before the ice age, they were living in a climate, and then after the ice age, they started living in a climate that was a little bit different. And there are different explanations for why that happened. The first one is that we know that at the time, there were a lot of other big animals. This is the Irish elk. You will see a skull of it just in the central hall here. This is a mammoth, this is a woolly rhino, and those went extinct just after the ice age. They left some space, and if horses, wild boar, aurochs, and red deer were able to live in this space, they had the opportunity of moving and expanding into new climates to which they were already adapted. The other option is that, well, there were humans at the time, not these particular humans, but there were prehistoric humans at the time, and they had an impact on the environment around them, not the same kind of impact we are having now. It was a much lighter impact. But maybe because we find the bones of those animals in archaeological sites where they are hunted by prehistoric humans, it may be that just humans changed their priorities. So maybe horses were in a different climate already before, but people were not hunting them. This is a little bit less likely, but it may be a variety of reasons. And the last reason is that they may have evolved. So they may have changed their relationship to climate because they adapted, their DNA changed, and they adapted to new climates. This is unlikely in the case of the animals I told you, because we are looking at a very short time. We are looking at like 20,000 years, which is a very short time for evolution to happen. But for other animals and longer time spans, evolution is a way to react to climate change. If the right mutations happen, you can use that to adapt to a new environment. And basically, evolution is what gave us the wonderful diversity we see in life today. There's also a last option, and you may just go extinct. It happened to a lot of animals. Dinosaurs are very famous for this, but around the museum, you will see a lot of other examples. Some of them are because of the climate, some others are because of the humans hunting them, or because of climate and humans and different factors together. But species may not be able to survive huge climatic changes. So back to the climate change discussion that we have today. Why do we care about modern day climate change if the climate has always been changing? So a reason is that we have seen this, but if we look at the amount of carbon dioxide in the air, this is yesterday, this is a measure from yesterday, we're here. We're at 428 parts per million, while here, in the last 800,000 years, we were up to 320. That's a lot. That's an awful lot. And this is happening in a really, really short time. And the reason why we have this change in the amount of CO2 in the air, it's us. It's our human activities, is the way we travel, the way we build things, the way we produce things. And that's basically our fault, because this change is way out of everything we have seen in a natural history of life. So climate change is becoming too fast. And, well, I mean, we were discussing about different options for for species to react to climate change. Evolution is not possible for most of the species because it's too fast, but they're still moving, right? We were discussing that species could follow the environment they're more adapted to. But if we look at this picture, this is from NASA of Europe at night. Every single light you see here is a city or a town or a village. And then there are streets in between them. And so there are a lot of barriers for species to move, because we have built so much. And this is not a problem for Europe, it's a problem for a lot of different places in the world, that animals, it's hard for them to move. So the take-home message is that studying the past shows us that species are able to adapt to climate changes. But this climate change is so fast that it's hard for them to adapt. And that's a gloomy idea, right? We are not very happy about that. So I know we are in the Zoology Museum in Cambridge, but I would like to bring you something that I took from my other place of work, which is the Natural History Museum in London. We are not doomed. We need to be advocates for the planet. So the vision and strategy of the Natural History Museum in London, and in a similar way, the museum here in Cambridge is going in the same direction, is to create advocates for the planet, because not everything is lost. There's a lot we can still do, and my colleague before was just showing you what we are trying to do to make things better for the nature around us. And there are a lot of things you can do. You can find here some information. You can discuss here with scientists in the museum, and they will give you ideas and ways for you to act for the planet and humans to thrive. And not everything is lost. Remember that. I showed you something that was really sad and problematic, but that's not the end of the story. let's work together for a new start. So I thank you all for being here. This is a little bit of my information on social media. So if you're interested in understanding more about how climate change works and their effect on species, I made a board game which is freely available from my website. We use it here at the Museum of Cambridge to do outreach. We use it for board game nights and for Meet the Expert. We had using that for a lot of activities with children. It's free. You can download it and play it at home with your friends or with your family. So if you want, it's here. And please don't lose hope. Just be an advocate for the planet.